welcome back. And it's really, really windy here at the moment. So I've got my earphones in and I hope you can't pick up on all the sounds because at the moment I've got no tiles on the roof in the room that I'm recording at. So it sounds horrendous. So if it's a bit of background noise, I do apologise, but bear with me. So the title of this episode is Why Does It Cost So Much to See a Therapist? And I've been toying with the idea of doing a recording around this for quite a while for a couple of reasons. I think us psychotherapists, counsellors, and various other people get a bad press for the amount that we charge to see clients privately. I had my first lurker, stalker, whatever you want to call them, a couple of months back. And it took me by surprise because it was a comment that was on something that I was offering for free. There was a bit of misunderstanding on using the coupon to access things for free. So that kind of might have been some reason why this person commented, but it was for free. You put in a coupon and you got a free anxiety introduction course on that. But then this person went into a bit of a, I don't want to say a rant because it was online and it wasn't a rant, but went on to explain her thoughts around certain things. And this person made quite a lot of assumptions about me, that I was trained through the NHS and I was employed with them, and then I'd left to go and do private practice, and none of that is true. I wasn't trained through the NHS. I have never worked for the NHS, and I certainly didn't get trained by somebody for free and then move away. My whole ethos around helping people it goes back years and years. I'm a people pleaser, and I would do anything to help anybody, as hopefully a lot of the people that know me will vouch for that. So I just wanted to kind of explore the topic of why, not just me, but why counsellors and psychotherapists charge the amount that they do. It is a sliding scale. A lot of it does depend on where you work, whether you're employed by somebody or whether you're self-employed, the hours that you work, your experience, lots of things come into it. So this is just kind of my take on things. And as I always say, and as I have said lots and lots of times in the past, we do filter out certain bits of information. So this is my thoughts and my take on the reason why we charge what we charge. So the first thing, I was trained by a private institute in Manchester, the transactional analysis place in Manchester, by a wonderful bloke. And it cost me an awful lot of money. It took me 4 years to be qualified. And I'm not a certified transactional analysis, because in order to be a certified transactional analysis, I would have to continue and do about 8 more years of training, and it would cost me an absolute bloody fortune, excuse my French. But I am qualified to use transactional analysis as a psychotherapist, which is really confusing. When I was doing my training, I thought, this is it. Once I've done my 4 years, everything stops and hunky-dory and I can go off. Halfway through, I found out that actually that's not the case. And I would have to be a member of so many different groups that would cost me so much money. I would have to go to training abroad. I would have to go and sit before a panel of people in, I think it was bloody Belgium or somewhere. Again, this is me just talking off the top of my head. So a lot of these facts might not be right, but I can talk about my situation and how things panned out for me, which is what I'm going to do. So anyway, my training was done in Manchester and it took me 4 years. I paid a lot of money for my training. There was a quote somewhere that it costs upwards of £30,000. That I have a reaction when I think how much money it has probably cost me. It costs upwards of £30,000 to get qualified to do the job that I do. So along with, I used to go one weekend every month. I had, things that I needed to do. We were there for the full weekend. We did lots of training, we did lots of practicals. After 2 years, I passed my competencies so that I could then start to see clients, even though I was still in my training and things were overseen. And I did a low-cost clinic within the institute where, you know, clients could access that for a lower cost, and as trainees we would see them, and it was a fantastic setup. And I would advocate anybody doing it that way. It fits really comfortably with me, because I didn't just get a qualification and then was released out into the world to do wonderful things. I felt like I needed hand holding for a certain amount of time, which is why we did 2 years of training, and then we passed a competency within that training. And then for the next 2 years, we were seeing clients and getting free supervision within the organisation, and it felt a really comfortable way of doing it. And I 100% wholeheartedly am pleased that I did that training. But along with the 4 years of training, I needed to access my own personal therapy throughout that 4 years. And off the top of my head, I think it was about somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds a week that I needed to spend for my own personal therapy on top of that. So far we've got £30,000 for the training. That, I believe, did include my own personal therapy, which was in its own, I've added this up, I've had my calculator out. That on its own was over £10,000 over the 4 years. Shocking. I can't believe that this amount of money has kind of passed through me. So the commitment of doing that, I think there's 52 weeks in the year, and we were allowed to take 6 weeks off, if my recollection serves me right, throughout that year. Otherwise, you know, holidays, we could take certain amount of holidays off and things like that. But throughout the year, even though the term for us, as in our training, kind of went from, it stopped at July and then started again in September, like an academic year did, we could only take 6 weeks off from personal therapy. So that needed to continue all through the 4 years. We also needed to be a member of UCARTA, which is the UK Association for Transactional Analysis, which at the time, I believe it was about £160 a year. So we needed to be a member of that body to say that we were training and within the organisation. Along with that, in order to be recognised, we needed to do 30 hours of continuous professional development every year. And I like training, so I still do that. I'm mentored by people, I'm in groups, so I do that quite regular. If something interests me, then I will seek out training to do that. So, you know, continuous professional development can be reading a book. I have loads of books. Michael Neal, love Michael Neal at the moment. I'm running sort of a bit of a course based on his Super Coach book with my membership at the moment. So yeah, I read books. I've got Audible, so I'm constantly listening to other therapists and their take on things, and if something tweaks my interest, then I will go away and learn about it. So yes, continuous professional development. Supervision, this was a biggie. So not only was I doing my weekly personal therapy, but we needed to do supervision. And over the 4 years that I was training, the last 2, that was done within the organisation. But as soon as I was qualified and got my diploma, then I needed to pay for supervision outside of that, which averages out, I think it's about £60 an hour for supervision. So again, that, you know, this is all mounting up now as to the reasons why therapists and counsellors do charge the amount that they charge. So yeah, we needed supervision. You don't just have an hour of supervision ad hoc or willy-nilly. It depends on how many clients you are seeing throughout the week as to how many hours of supervision that you have. And that varies across the board, depending on what modality you are training in. Can you see how difficult this is and how much stuff that you need to be aware of, not only when you go into this, but also when you're practicing? So for every hours seeing a client, we were expected to have at least 1.5 hours of supervision. So that 1.5 hours of supervision would cost on average £90 to £100 for every 8 hours of clients that we were seeing. But that varies. And if you've got a client that you might have a lot of questions about, you needed to up that. So it varies as to how much supervision every counsellor or every therapist will access. So that's another cost, is the sort of £60+ for supervision. Along with that, with transactional analysis, we couldn't see any supervisor. We needed to see somebody that was a supervisor in transactional analysis, which, because it is quite a specific area, they were quite few and far between. So I needed to travel quite a way in order to see this person, to get supervision from them. So that was another cost that was done. The BACP, which is the British Association of Counsellors and Psychotherapists, which is well known, the counselling directory, that's kind of their thing. But in order to do that, I needed to go through another set of competencies. I needed to go through to somewhere in Manchester and sit an online test to prove that I could pass my competencies, which I did do. I passed it, and I was a member of the BACP. I needed to be a member of the BACP in order to advertise on the therapist directory. So there's another 2 costs that are involved in this. So the BACP membership was £170 a year-ish. Again, these are going off my memory. Also, to be on the therapist directory, it was £76 a year in order to have your name and address and basic website stuff on there to advertise. So when people type in psychotherapy directory and post in your local area, and you see pictures coming up, and you either like the person by the picture or you don't, whichever way that is for you. That's what they've done. They've become a member of the BACP. Whether the course was on their list of accepted courses, or like mine, where it wasn't, because it was transactional analysis psychotherapy and not a counselling course, I needed to go in and sit a test or an online exam to prove that I was competent to see clients before they would accept me into it. So then, to advertise, you've got to pay extra money in order to do that. On top of that, now we need to be signed up with Gdpr, which is a data protection thing, which is another £80 a year. I'm looking, I think that's pretty much it. Insurance, personal insurance, liability insurance, we need to have that, which again, there's a cost. It depends which provider you go to and what your cover is and everything else, but we need to have personal insurance. If I'm quite lucky, I see clients when I'm doing face-to-face. I'm not doing that at the moment because of coronavirus, but when I've got a room in an annex off my house that I see clients, so I'm quite lucky in that. But if you were somebody that didn't and you needed to rent a room, then obviously you've got the room rent on top of that, that you would need to do. There's also the social media side of things, and the advertising and the domain names and the domain hosting and all that stuff that's on top of it. I use Dropbox and Canva to do stuff on social media, memes and little snippets and things like that. I also have to pay for Zoom, where I see clients online, so I've got that to pay out every 12 months. What else do I pay for lots of things. So I haven't worked this out on a weekly basis, because I think I would be quite shocked, and I'm probably working for less than minimum wage if I totted everything up. So where am I going with all of this? I stepped away from a lot of that. I have on my website and on my social media, yes, I am qualified as a psychotherapist. Yes, I have my own personal insurance. Yes, I have my GDPR, registration done. Yes, I do things on Zoom and everything. So I know that I am doing all that I can, but I stepped away from the BACP. I stepped away from being part of all those memberships. One, because it did mean that I needed to pass a lot of that cost on to my clients, but also because I found it to be quite cliquey and quite restricted. I felt like I didn't have that much of a choice as to what continuous professional development I did. In order for it to count, it needed to be something to do with transactional analysis. You know, my supervisor needed to be transactional analysis based. There was lots of things that I felt quite restricted on. So I chose to step away from that. So that's just my personal account on one of the reasons why people charge the price that they do to be a psychotherapist in private practice. The other thing that was quite restricted in a lot of this was who I could see. Word of mouth is a fantastic way to advertise what you do. If you have a client and you've helped them through, you know, a certain trauma in their life, or you've helped them set a goal and carry that goal out, or whatever it is, they hopefully recommend you to the people around them. You know, they talk about you in a positive light. That's fantastic. But I wouldn't have been, I want to say allowed, but I'm sure some people do, but it wouldn't have been seen as ethical for me to see anybody that knew that person, any members of their family, anybody that they worked close with, anybody that we knew between us. They would kind of have to be referred on to somebody else. So word of mouth isn't a way for me to advertise what I do. So there was a lot of ethical considerations. I consider myself to be a very ethical psychotherapist. I won't see people that I don't feel like I've got the right skills in order to help them. I wouldn't see people that were part of my family because I would have too much information about their background and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't see people necessarily that I worked with personally. But if I have a client that comes to see me and the child is going through a period at the moment with COVID and everything else, that's suffering from anxiety, I will be happy to see a child of a previous client. Whereas that might not have been acceptable if I was part of all these memberships and bodies and everything. It's a bit of a minefield really over, you know, who we should see and who we shouldn't see. Obviously, confidentiality comes into it, and practicing in an ethical way, which I do feel both of those. I am 100% behind and agree with all of it. So that's the reason why a lot of people have to advertise on the psychotherapy directory or the counselling directory, because it's the only way that we can access new clients that haven't got any connection with any existing clients. That would mean that I needed to go online. I needed to do a lot of online therapy, which to start off with, I wasn't very confident to do. I'm more confident now. I've been doing this job for quite a while, but to start off in the early days, I felt like I needed to be in a room with the person so that I could, you know, observe them and get a feel for them and make a connection with them. So I was cutting out a lot of the people that I could help in my area because I was specifically only seeing people face to face. And if word of mouth couldn't be used for them to talk to people that they worked with or other members of their family in order to come and see me, it was literally people were dropping off constantly. So that was why I made a conscious decision to do what I do. I hope that's clear and I've not bamboozled you with loads of stuff. But ultimately, it's just a way of me to express and explain why we as counsellors and psychotherapists need to charge the price that we do a lot of the time. Yes, it does vary whether you're in the middle of Manchester or down in London, and it does vary dependent on your experience and the type of people that you work with. I try to keep my hourly rate for face-to-face clients as low as I feasibly can. But I have outgoings. Yes, it's my job. Yes, I need to pay my mortgage just like everybody else does. But there's also added outgoings on top of that, as in the insurance and being, having things registered with Gdpr and doing my continuous professional development and paying for Zoom and paying for all these online things that I'm now having to do because I can't see people face to face. As I said, I'm lucky I don't need to pay for rent. That's not an added thing that I have on top of everything. So what have I done to try and access more people? I started a membership that I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about. One, the reason why I set that up, and two, what that actually involves. So I set that up not in order to give people therapy in a group setting. That's not what the membership is about. It's about me helping and supporting people based on therapeutic principles. So it's not a substitute for therapy. I would recommend, anybody and everybody, no matter what they're going through at the moment, if they feel like they need support, is to access one-to-one private therapy. It's the best. It really is. But for people that can't access that, then my membership is a way of having somebody with therapeutic principles in mind, offering help and support. When I was starting up the membership, I went on a lot of courses and a lot of support groups around anxiety, and I was feeling so anxious because these groups didn't seem to be moderated by anybody that had experience from a therapeutic place. Yes, these are fantastic groups, and they're probably moderated and set up by people that have suffered from anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and all those things themselves. So they have an insider view of it, which is absolutely fantastic. But it tended to be a lot of people talking about a lot of things around anxiety a lot of the time, and that can trigger other people. That it was triggering me as a psychotherapist. So just a word of warning about the support groups and things like that are out there. Yes, they serve a purpose, and I'm not saying don't join them, but just be mindful of you might get triggered by some of the conversations that go on in there, and also that they're not always moderated by people that have experience from a counselling or a therapeutic background. So my membership is different to that. There's lots of courses that are available. I'm constantly running courses in the background, because it's not just about what happens in the therapy room. It's about me trying to encourage my clients to be proactive in making a change. It's about me encouraging my clients to learn more about what it's like to be a human being. What happens when we're triggered? When I'm anxious, what's happening in my body? I'm not a medical person and don't claim to be so, but I understand how, certain processes take place in our body, and that we can, feel emotions in certain ways. So we talk about those sort of things. We talk about lots of stuff that runs in the background, not necessarily the issues. Clients are free, and members of my membership club are free to talk about things what are going on for them in that moment. But the way that we discuss it within the group is not one-to-one therapy. I don't give clients one-to-one therapy in the membership. I would encourage them, they can talk to me, they can message me and everything, and I would encourage them to come and see me. So the membership is more about support from like-minded people. A lot of the people in my membership who are going through or have been through similar things. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear me rustling around, but my earphones are falling off my head. So that's the first thing. The other thing, we do a weekly Zoom on a Friday at 8:30 UK time, where we can discuss whatever training course has been on that week, anything that's come up for them around that training course, any insights that they've had, you know, the positive stuff that's going on, how they've made a change and what they've done. And I encourage the members of this group to be proactive in making a change. This might not go down very well, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just because you pay money to a therapist or a counsellor or pay a subscription to something does not mean that change will automatically happen. You have to be invested in it. It's kind of like, you know, an example off the top of my head would be paying for Netflix subscription every month and not turning your television on, and then whinging because there wasn't any programs being shown to you. That's the same kind of thing. If you're paying to see a counsellor or a therapist every week, you need to be invested in making a change for yourself. If you're paying a subscription to be part of a group or a membership around anxiety or around, I don't know, childbirth or around how to fix your car or whatever it is, you need to be proactive in that group. You need to ask questions. You need to start to make a change and, you know, practically and physically do something yourself in order to make that change happen. It's not going to just happen to you. Yes, we have insights. Yes, we can think about things differently that ultimately will impact on how we respond and react to what's going on around us. But we need to be in the game in order to make a change. So just paying people money to be part of something does not automatically mean that your life is going to get any better. So I would actively encourage anybody to invest in themselves. One, it's part of, you know, our self-care and being selfless, and it's really important that we are encouraged and feel able to do that. But it's not just about investing the money in it, it's about investing the time and the effort and the energy, because it does take effort and energy in order to make a change. So yeah, that's me getting off my soapbox now. So if you want to know more about the membership, if you want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, then you can contact me at any time, jacci@jaccijones.co.uk. You can find me on social media, Jacci Jones Coaching. Yeah, just reach out and get in touch if you've got any questions or anything. And I hope that goes some way to explaining and exploring some of the background stuff around counsellors and psychotherapists, because I think sometimes people get the wrong impression of us. Yes, I'm a people pleaser. You know, I started my working career as a hairdresser, which was an unpaid therapist, because believe me, some of the things us ladies share when we're sat in that hairdressing seat, I think that was probably the start of it. I'm not going into my personal background and why I'm a people pleaser, but yes, I was a hairdresser. Then I got married and had children, and my first job was as a nursery nurse. I qualified as a nursery nurse and then worked for Stafford College in the community, working with parents and children. And I think that kind of started the whole ball rolling for me. So as a nursery nurse and as a tutor and working in schools with children, I did a breakfast club and after school club for the local primary school. I worked in the reception class of the local primary school. I then went on to run a pub, whether you could say that I was playing mother to all the people that came into my pub, that's something. I did have rules and boundaries. That's part of being a parent and a caregiver. I then went on to be a foster carer. I was a foster carer for 13 years, which again, there's lots of things that I've done in order to take care of other people. So it does hit something in me when I get accused of making money out of people's suffering, or I get accused of, you know, hitting people when they're down or whatever it is, because that's not who I am, and that's not the reason why most counsellors and psychotherapists or support workers go into this job. Often people that work with people that have addictions, have been addicted themselves. They know what it's like to be on the receiving end of it, and they just want to pay it forward. They want to help other people, but often at a cost to themselves. You know, we need to pay out certain things in order for us to do the job that we do. So just bear that in mind if ever you're thinking, why do they charge so much? Why do they charge these people that are struggling and suffering so much money? Often it's because of the stuff that goes on in the background. Most no, I shouldn't say most, because that's making assumptions, but a lot of us do have low cost clients. A lot of us do attempt to pay it forward in the best way that we can do it. And one of the ways that I've chosen to do that over the past sort of, it's quite a while now, I do free stuff on social media as well. So it's not that everything I do I charge for. I do have a free private group for parents and one for the therapy side on Facebook that I would be more than happy for people to join. Again, you check out my website, jaccijones.co.uk, you can see all the free stuff that I do on there. So yeah, that's me getting off my soapbox now. I'm going to upload this onto YouTube and do it as this week's podcast episode. So yeah, just be mindful of the fact that us counsellors and psychotherapists do have feelings, and we do need to pay our mortgage just like everybody else does. And most of us, if not all of us, do as much as we can for free. But it's not therapy. It can't be therapy if we're doing it for free in an online platform. Like my free groups are not therapy. They are based on therapeutic principles, which is completely different. In order to have therapy with me on a one-to-one basis, you need to be fully invested and committed to that. You need to sign a contract with me that we both agree to. We need to have, you know, a process, an end goal. We need to have a therapeutic plan mapped out, and it's completely different to offering the support that I do in my membership and the free stuff that I do online. So there are two separate sides to this that I kind of just wanted to voice. So I hope that's helped. Feel free to get in touch, and I shall be back very soon with something maybe a little more light-hearted than what this one's been. Take care, and I'll speak to you all soon.